Good evening, everyone. It's Mark again, here in Virtual SCL Space, your favourite place. So, if you heard voices earlier, not too sure what to say about that. It seems there are some forces out there in the universe tonight that are just itching to entertain you all. I tell you, this is a rambunctious panel, and they just cannot wait to be visible in Zoom and tell you all about the show Royalties. I love Royalties. I want more Royalties. I also want to tell you about tonight's moderator, Pete Hammond. Pete was at the first ever SCL Awards show way back in January when people could congregate, and he gave it a glowing review, which is why we have accepted him into our Zoom space tonight. So, without further ado, I would like to warmly welcome Pete Hammond from Deadline. Hi, Pete.
Hi there. Hey, thanks, Mark. I'm glad that was a glowing review. That would be awkward if it was a pan, but that was a great show.
Certainly would. It would be as awkward as people, wanting to just get going on this before we're all ready. So, but, I think that's great because they're obviously very excited. So I'm going to disappear now, and good luck handling these very creative, rambunctious types. Have fun, sir.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. The show we're going to be talking about is Royalties on Quibi, and if you haven't seen it, go right after this and check it out. And I know a lot of you have seen it, and it's a lot of fun and great music too. And I want to introduce the man who created it, who's a mover and shaker behind it. He's an Emmy winner for The Assassination of Gianni Versace. His first Emmy nomination, though, came actually in the Best Song category at the Emmys, for this time from Glee. And he's done so much great in the current Netflix series, Hollywood, limited series. Check that out, too. Please welcome Darren Criss.
Hello, everybody. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait any longer. I just had to be part of this party. So here we are. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. We hope it's going to be a party. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And you've worked with this guy that I'm about to introduce for a long time. He's been your partner in songwriting, in this series, in so many things, and your Star Kids operation and all the stuff you've created together. Please welcome Nick Lang.
Hi, everybody. Hey.
It's Nick Lang.
Hey, here I am.
Yes, and I like that. Is that a microphone you're holding there? Or that's cool.
Yes. This is a little microphone.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we have a legend among us. A Star Wars fans and everyone else excited by this guy. I've loved him in so many things he's done. Also, beyond that realm, and he is in Royalties and Singing Up a Storm as well, which we're going to talk about, and so many other things. So please welcome Mark Hamill.
Wait a minute.
Whoa,
there he is.
Wait a minute. Oh, am I unmuted and ready to go?
Good. Mm-hmm. How are you, Mark?
I'm good.
Good.
Good. I haven't left the house since February 29th, and I've never forgotten what day of the week it is more than in the last 3 months.
Well, it's Wednesday for those of you out there trying to figure it out.
Is it Wednesday?
Is it?
It felt like a Thursday to me, so that's good news.
But see, that's the thing. All the days have lost their feels. Yeah. We used to feel what a Friday felt like. We know what a Sunday felt like. Now it's just all mushed together like an extended version of a Twilight Zone episode, and not a very good one at that.
So, now, Mark, would you have stayed is obviously you're home because of the pandemic, but do you think you would have stayed home anyway if there wasn't a pandemic going on? Would you have been home this whole time?
Well, as an elderly recluse, this pandemic has really played. It's in my wheelhouse.
I was going to say nothing's really different, is it?
Not too much. I mean, because my wife is always complaining. She goes, "You used to go to the premieres and we'd go to the clubs and we do this and that. Now, of course, they bring everything into your home. I mean, talk about Quibi. I mean, you have Netflix and the satellite dish and all of it. So why leave the comfort of your home? I say a day spent all day long in your pajamas is a win.
Yes, it is.
You're actually working from home, Mark, too. You've been like recording animated stuff.
Yeah.
You've actually found a way to work right there in your house.
Exactly. I mean, they asked me to do a little comedy bit on Jimmy Kimmel and surprise a healthcare worker. And of course, you can do it now virtually. The last time I did a bit for Kimmel, you have to drive into Hollywood, and there's the back entrance where all the dealers are that want you to sign all their stuff, and it's a hassle. I'm so spoiled now. When the pandemic's over, I'm still going to want to do things virtually.
A lot of people may, you never know. But we're here because of these guys who have created this great show for Quibi. It's a whole new format. You watch it on your phone. It's a whole new world here, just that alone. And Darren, you're the mastermind behind this. How did this come about? And you brought Mark into it for a very memorable episode here. And he sings and does everything. It's not the first time he sang. We'll ask him about that in a second. But tell me about the background of how Royalties came about in the first place.
Yeah, I'll kind of give the quick dossier on that, and we'll kind of pivot to the episode that got Mark to this very moment right now. I have, and probably Mark doesn't even really probably know this background, but in my sort of dance in the entertainment world, it's kind of gone between the music space as not only a performer, but as a songwriter, has always kind of existed in tandem with the acting thing. And I'm using these two sort of windows of my Zoom here because this music one by nature is kind of behind the scenes. The acting one is on the front lines and is in a little more people's faces. It's on billboards and stuff. So I think the exposure of that mostly just identifies myself with people too, just as an actor, but they have the same currency in my life. So selfishly, I wanted to kind of put them in the same box, so I didn't have to keep pivoting back and forth. I figured if I could make a show that kind of flexed all the muscles that I do kind of around the clock in one place, then it would be a really fun thing for me. So I've always wanted to do a show that was kind of a love letter to the absurdity of songwriting. There's a lot of really great melodramas out there about the music industry, and as much as I love Smash and Empire and Nashville with very serious looks at these portions of the music industry, being a kind of goofy minded person, I always thought it'd be more fun to just take the piss out of it and treat it with a little more satire and humor than an expose. So that's kind of the show that I've always wanted to make, and I wanted to write the songs for it. And Nick Lang and his brother and I have this musical theater company called Star Kid, which we've been creating musical content for online for 10 years. And so if I was going to make a music-based comedy, I wasn't going to do this with anybody else but Nick. So I've been sitting on this idea for almost 8-something years, and when I finally got around to doing it, Quibi was gracious enough to kind of give us the go, and I got the dream team together, and we had an episode that was a very silly concept about a guy with big thoughts about a big creature with a small member, and we decided to write this country song about it. And when thinking of who to do it, I don't know. I just, for some reason I said, and I don't know why, I said, I don't know, it'd be funny if Mark Hamill did it. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I think my appreciation for Mark as also a person who does a lot of voiceover, Mark is very revered in the voiceover space. And I think something that Mark, you'll be pleased to know that I know, Mark is a character actor, and a damn fine one at that. And he's very good with manipulating his voice for character, whether he's on camera or not. So I always figured there was a sort of like a grittiness, but goofiness to this guy that Mark kind of just has in spades, as far as being able to do the accent, kind of laying into the goofiness is something that Mark's been really talented at for many, many years. And it was just a shot in the dark. I didn't think that he would respond. So here we are, because he said yes, spoiler alert.
Thank God you said yes. You're very good. I think you could have a country hit here, Mark. I really do. It's called Mighty as Kong. It's and you're really authentic here. I could hear this on country radio. So how did you develop this character to sing it and stay in key too? You're very good.
Well, what really King Kong got my attention because this was a pivotal film. When I was 8 years old, we were living in New York. My dad was in the Navy, so I went to 9 schools in 12 years. I mean, we didn't live there long, but there was the $1 Million movie where all week long they showed the same film. Monday through Friday, they showed King Kong. And I watched it on a Monday, and it was the first movie that really made me cry. It was just epically tragic in my estimation. Of course, at 8 years old, boys loved dinosaurs. I didn't know how they did it, but I became obsessed. I watched it every single day that week, hoping somehow he would escape and not be brought back to Manhattan. You know, I wasn't old enough to realize that, you know, it's not going to change. And it just got me every time. So I'm saying, you know, I had to know how they did it. And along came Famous Monsters of Filmland, and I learned about stop frame animation. And I thought, when I put it together, that people go to work and their job is to make dinosaurs come to life. It's like when I saw Clarence Nash on a Walt Disney episode doing Donald Duck in a suit. I said, oh my God, my dad's in the Navy. This guy goes to work and gives Donald Duck a voice. When it became real in my head, I kept it a secret because I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers that I'd be ridiculed mercilessly. But I knew right then, I'm going to be in this business. I didn't know how or what I would do, but you know, you'd watch these making of on Disney and you think, well, there's the camera crew and there's the set construction. I mean, yeah, I like performing, but I thought no matter what, I could be a caterer. I don't have to be in the show. I want to be near the show. So I knew at a very early age I wanted to do this. Now, to flash forward to my involvement in this, my agent said they're interested in you to do this, and you'd have to sing a song. And I said, well, first of all, King Kong got my attention. Also, Amy Heckerling. I mean, the chance to work with a director of her caliber. But I have to tell you, when I heard this song, there was no question that I had to do it. I mean, it's beyond insane. I thought, who thinks like this? I've been obsessed with King Kong all my life, and I've never once thought of his genitalia. And it was just so absurd and so off the wall. And I thought it lends itself well, because if you sing it sincerely, it's all there. And the only question I had, this happened when I did a Broadway musical. I said, I don't know if I have the chops to do it. And Darren's guide track was so great. I said, I know I can't do it as good as Darren does it, but I can go in and try it out with him. And if he doesn't think I can do it, I'm fine with that, because I don't want to embarrass myself. But I have this theory. It's like Bill Murray on Saturday Night Live when he would do Nick the Lounge Singer. He had such conviction. It's like he didn't care whether he technically was on the note or, that he was, technically right. He just, in his mind, he was better than Sinatra. So a lot of it is the courage of your convictions and believing in it. And like I say, I'd never heard of this song, and I thought, I have to do this because I don't want to let anybody else do it.
It's so great. You brought up so many things here, too. In the inspiration of the song, Darren and Nick, how in the world do you think of this concept for a song? I think Mark was wondering the exact same.
I'd love to hear the answer to this question.
Yeah, this one's for Nick for sure, because every song was written from the service of the episode and the joke in the episode. So Nick, why don't you take us through how, because this title is Nick's. He's the one that said we need a song like this, and then I went from there.
Yeah, this was a thought that my brother had several years ago. He was watching King Kong, and you said the last thing you'd think of is King Kong's genitalia, but that was the first thing that he thought of. He was like, I wonder how big King Kong's penis is. And we looked up how big a gorilla's penis is, which is 1 inch long erect. And we kind of crunched some numbers in our head, and we said, oh, well, King Kong's about 30 feet, so he's like maybe 5 times the size of an average gorilla. So we were like, King Kong only has a 5-inch penis when it's erect, and we thought that was pretty funny. And we were looking for a way to get it into something for many years. And then we thought of this episode, because kind of the gag of the show is that it's them thinking of the songs. And we thought, wouldn't it be funny if this woman, Sara, had a boyfriend who got to do this monologue that we had for many years about how great King Kong is, and about how people with small penises shouldn't feel bad because they, like a 5-inch penis is the same size as King Kong's penis. And so then we thought, that's a dumb thing to make a song about. And we thought, let's just have her make fun of her boyfriend, and then the song gets out of hand, and then Mark's character ends up singing it, and it ruins a guy's life. So there you go.
Wow. Someday I'd like to climb into your mind. It's quite interesting.
Well, you can get a piece of it on Royalties, that's for sure. But
I know they're off the wall. All the songs are. They're great.
So but like all of our songs, yes, it's a really goofy, stupid joke, but we wanted to make sure that they were all treated with a degree of authenticity and legitimacy in the way that they were written and produced, so much to the point where hopefully Mark hears it, and if you didn't speak English, you go, okay, this sounds like a normal country song. But if you read the lyrics, you go, what the hell is going on? And then more importantly, those lyrics support the joke from the episode. So it wasn't just some random idea. It is in service of a character in our show who uses this as his sort of daily affirmation about his inequities.
I just, I wish this was for the Oscars, because I would love to see Mark perform this in front of 1 billion people.
I think we all.
No, listen, I love that the song stands alone outside the body of the script, except for the one line, as sure as my name is Glenn Henderson, which gave me pause when I first heard it, because I heard the song first. I didn't read the script. You can't categorize this. It's I love the Marx Brothers and Monty Python and absurdist humor in general, and this one just landed beautifully for me. It was just clicking on all cylinders. So it was a real gift.
I wish that I had known. When people ask me how we got in touch, how we got Mark to do this, I wish we were clever and conniving enough to have known his personal background with the King Kong franchise. It was a complete and utter serendipity that hopefully worked out in everyone's favor. But it's just one of those great Hollywood moments where truly it could not have happened more naturally.
Did he know, like you were a Broadway star, Darren? Did you know that Mark had been on Broadway in a musical?
We met at the
Mark,
Tonys.
what were you going to say?
We met at the Tonys. Yeah.
So it was all Broadway here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was very brief. There's a picture of it somewhere, which I'll have to find on the internet. But I like I said, I knew Mark could do it despite his hesitancy, mainly because he's a vocalist. And I mean that, people always categorize that with singing. But I always, remind people that, vocality and the ability to manipulate your voice kind of goes much farther than having a singing voice. It's control, it's a muscle. And that's why I wasn't worried at all. My demo may have been a couple keys higher, but that by no means is indicative of what the song needed to be. We moved it and we made it, we shaped it for Mark, and now I listen to it and I can't imagine anybody else doing it.
I can imagine. I would like to hear your demo. Do you have a guitar somewhere in that room somewhere? Is there?
Oh, I have it, but it's over here. I'll release it one of these days. But it was up here. It was like, mighty, mighty, mighty is Kong. Actually, my voice is on there. Per Mark's request, there is a that is pretty high that we left in there. So
there's a stunt woo.
Yeah,
it's a stunt woo.
That was pretty good, though. That was a good will.
Yeah. The fun thing also about this series is that each one of the episodes has its own a companion video, music video. And I love the one for this song. It's so much fun. You weave in King Kong and all of that. And what was that like doing that, Mark? And
the information. Not only do they have the 1933 King Kong, but they go through the Dino De Laurentiis remake and the Peter Jackson reboot. I mean, I thought this is so. I mean, I'm kvelling like the nerd that I am. You're talking to someone that actually built the Aurora King Kong model kit when I was like 11. And even putting him together, it just never occurred to me, to think of his privates. I don't think I ever thought of that. You go occasionally to the zoo and, some of the smaller monkeys would press it up against the glass in the impudent way that they have. But like I say, it's like all I could think of was like, who thinks like this? I've got to meet these people just to see if they're,
or heads are screwed on straight because they're not.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I bow to you. I mean, it's just sensational absurdism, and I loved it.
Well, we when we were making this song, I was talking about treating things with a level of authenticity that I think one of the common booby traps of writing a joke in a song is it becomes all about the joke, right? You don't try and have this sort of real feeling of it being a song and handling it with care. Again, like if you didn't speak English and you didn't understand the context, you could feel real. And so we were trying to figure out how we could put this into a country song. And country songs are story songs, right? At least in their finest form, they are a narrative. And so we had to accomplish two things. One, explaining the narrative, that of King Kong, sounding like a typical cowboy coming into a new town, which he kind of does. He comes to New York City and he has to make his way, so to speak, but also trying to articulate this sort of absurd mantra that this guy has about feeling small in the same song. And the one line that we kind of started with before we had the full song, I had the title Mighty as Kong, and I had this line, which I didn't know where or how I was going to put it in. I literally wedged it in there because I said, this song cannot happen without the following line. I'm an American man with an American song, taking an American stand on my American dong. I don't know how I was going to put it in, but that's where it had to go.
That was a great line too. And in the video, it's all spilled out right in front of you too. Yep. It's like you can sing along with it with Mark.
Well, I mean, the multi-layers of absurdity, taking an American stand on my American dong. I mean, it conjures up the imagery of someone actually standing on their genitals. Like I say, it just works on so many different levels. And then the fact that in character, the country singer is as sincere as if he were singing about, his wife leaving him and getting drunk and the usual narratives that are in country western songs. So, it's a real gem.
You certainly deliver that. I kept saying authenticity. I meant to say sincerity. That's the word, Mark. It's the sincerity of really believing this song.
I always tell, one of the best directions I ever had, play the truth, the comedy will follow. You really get in trouble if you're playing comedy. You've got to play the truth. You've got to be sincere and let the audience see the humor. You can't acknowledge it yourself. That just makes it much funnier if you don't.
Yeah.
Hey, where's your Emmy, by the way? I'm looking in the background for Darren's Emmy.
Oh, it's somewhere downstairs. It's by the piano.
Look, notice. I have my BAFTA right here.
Oh, wow!
Faced perfectly towards.
That's so. I love that award. Show everybody your BAFTA. Let's see.
Here's my BAFTA. It's one of the heaviest awards ever. It's probably not as lethal as an Emmy with the sharp
the
wings.
Emmy is very oblong. It's very sharp.
And it's got those sharp wings. So we should be glad OJ never won an Emmy. I've been nominated, but I've never won. So this is. Huh?
You did a series early on in your career that I loved, and it lasted just a few episodes, and it should have run for years, called the Texas Wheelers, which was so good and had that kind of country feel to it.
I was devastated when that was canceled because we only did 13 episodes. It got canceled. But if it had been a hit, I wouldn't have been available for Star Wars. So things happen for a reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Mark,
I
you
remember.
said you were.
What?
Sorry. No, so you please. Oh, I was going to say you got nominated for. We were talking about you doing theater and singing. You've done a musical.
Right.
And what musical is that? Was that something you said you were nominated for a drama desk? Is that what you're saying?
I was. It was written by Michael Stewart. Now, Michael Stewart wrote Bye Bye Birdie and Carnival, Hello Dolly, what else? George M., Mac and Mabel.
Wow.
He wrote Barnum, 42nd Street, and Harrigan and Hart. One of the only shows of his that flopped. Now, we did it at the Goodspeed Opera in Connecticut, and it was a sepia tone. It was really a tragic story about, it was turn of the century vaudevillians, Ned Harrigan and Tony Hart, who I played, and Harrigan spells Harrigan. That was written about Ned Harrigan. And Harrigan went on to have a long, decades-long career and many, many children. And Tony Hart was a really troubled, conflicted young man. He was a brilliant comedian who died very young. So what I'm saying, it had a really tragic ending. And, every performance, the audience was just devastated and in tears. Now, it was directed by Eddie Stone, who had directed Charlotte's Suite. And when it would move to Broadway, they took Eddie, this visionary young guy. I mean, he was probably younger than I was. I was maybe 33. Eddie might have been 28. I don't know. But they decided to get the director of Barnum, Joe Layton, to direct the Broadway version. Now, I was not a producer. I had no say. But I watched as they took this small sepia tone musical. It's almost like the director in The Producers. Remember when he's reading the script about World War II? He goes, but the ending is so depressing. We'll have to change the ending. And that's what Joe did. He sort of turned it into Barnum 2. Bright primary colors and an ending where after the tragedy of Tony's life, there's a flashback where I threw off the fat suit and the haggard makeup, and I was young again. They tried to open on a happy note. I mean, they just ruined it. It didn't surprise me when it didn't run. If they had just put it, probably it would have been better off Broadway. But my point is, they took perfection, and it was tragic in real life seeing them ruin it like they did. But nonetheless, I did get a drama desk.
It's his fault you don't have a drama desk behind you then.
Well, it's not about the awards. I mean, it was really probably the best part I ever had in television. It was Texas Wheelers. It's funny that way. I did a movie called Slipstream that didn't go anywhere, but was probably would have opened up a career for me playing a villain because I was the villain of the piece. But I don't regret any of my flops. I mean, not only do you learn a lot, but it proves to me that it's the work that counts, not the success that's most important.
You've done so many good. Corvette Summer, I would mention too. That was a good little movie as well.
Which was, when I accepted that film, it was called Dantley and Vanessa, A Fiberglass Romance. It was Hal Barwood and Matthew Robbins, two great writers, and when we heard that they had changed it to Corvette Summer, we were just appalled because the whole thing is it's about a boy that thinks that he wants this car that's stolen. He's obsessed with getting it back. He meets a girl played by Annie Potts, and without him even realizing it, by the end of the movie, he couldn't care less about the car. He's fallen head over heels for this young lady. And I thought that was such a great message. It's so anti-materialistic, and it was just really sweet. It's not a big movie, but it's a small movie about real people, and I loved it. And I guess I've gotten used to the title, but nonetheless, we were all just shocked because it sounded like such a, kind of a exploitation drive-in movie, but we had no say.
It wasn't. Now, I have an audience question I want to get to because we have people out there in the dark that are dying to ask stuff. So this is actually for Mark, too, and I think we sort of answered it a little bit, but where did Mark's singing prowess come from? And that's a compliment right there. Did you have any training? Do you have any lesser known talents beyond singing? And to the same question, besides this and Chucky, have you ever done any other film, TV singing?
Well, when I read the script to Harrigan and Hart, I said, I love this script and I love this character. I really get this character because all of his feelings were repressed because he was a ethnic comedian. He did Dutch, Irish, Jewish. He did drag. He did the politically incorrect blackface, which of course was something we didn't touch in the show. But my point is, he was like many comedians. He was outwardly hilarious and full of love, and then just a mess off stage. He was addicted to laudanum and probably bisexual in the late 1800s when that was not something that could be processed in polite society. But my point is, I said, I really love this character, but I hadn't heard the score. So I said to my agent, I'll go in and I'll audition, obviously, and I'll just be upfront with them. And I told them what my background was. I said, look, I've done Snoopy in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I've done Finch in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. I'll never do Billy Bigelow in Carousel because I just don't have the chops. So they played the score for me. And fortunately, since he was a comedian, many of the songs were comedic in like I could play the MC in Cabaret, performance songs, rather than those semi-operatic. I'm no Brian Stokes Mitchell. I'm no Darren Criss, but I can carry a tune.
I'm not those guys either.
So, I mean, I sang 2 songs for them of my choice. And after that, they sent me to dance school 3 days a week for 6 weeks to see whether or not, because they asked you to move to the music in any style you want. But this was specific clog dancing and all that. And I'd never taken tap or any of that. But like I say, it was such a challenge. And that's what I love. I love doing things that are unexpected. And this was certainly that. And of course, you work with these people that all they do are musicals. My understudy, James, he was 10 years younger than me. He was like 21, 22, had been in, 15 Broadway musicals. They just go to one musical after another, and that's all they do. And so that dance routine that they taught me in the 6 weeks of choreography school, we went in Connecticut. They taught it to the company. I said, don't tell them that I already know this. I want to really impress them. Because I thought it would take them at least 3 or 4 days. They got it before lunchtime. I mean, these dancers have their own kind of, is this a flat ball change into a traveling blah, blah, blah? I mean, it's just uncanny how gifted these people are with the singing and the dancing and the acting. I mean, it's astonishing. And their passion is so strong because they're getting paid Zippo. I mean, it's just barely survival money for 8 shows a week. So, like I say, their love for what they're doing is very, very strong. But now let's have questions for Darren and for Nick.
Yeah, well, we do have one. Another question from the audience here. By the way, I love the fact you both played Finch in How to Succeed.
You're in the Brotherhood. Oh, man.
Did you play? Where did you do How to Succeed?
I did Finch. I did it on Broadway.
Oh, that's right. You replaced.
Yeah,
you replaced.
Yeah. I want you proud to be in that fraternity.
Now, did you replace Matthew Broderick? The Matthew Broderick one, or there was the one with the Harry Potter actor?
With Daniel, yeah.
Daniel
Matthew
Radcliffe
did it in the 90s, and then Stamos, who's also in our show, John Stamos, took over for him. And then when they revived it in 2011, I think it was Daniel Radcliffe, and I took over for a few weeks after Dan. So
fun.
we
both have shared the Finchian journey,
which is so cool. This is a great question. I've got to ask this, Darren, and here it is. Were there any licensing or copyright considerations using King Kong for a song, or was it kind of covered as satire? Did you have any problem doing that?
No, I mean, luckily, it is satire, but we also made sure not to directly reference anything that is, not fair use. At least as far as I'm concerned. Now you're making me go, shit, I better
You're in trouble.
He's dumbass. Oh, what have I done? I'm pretty sure. I mean, we don't directly say anything. I mean, it's more about the widely known story about King Kong, unless there's some pretty specific information in one of the King Kong movies that I missed about the size of his penis. I think we're in the clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, you were going to say something, I think.
Yes, my brain is now very worried that King Kong is not in the public domain.
Our Archeo Studios has not been in existence for a very, very long time. And I think, like you say, I mean, it's like you'd read the parodies in Mad Magazine. Remember those? Sing to the tune of "I Feel Pretty," and they would do these parody songs. So I think you have nothing to worry about. It's generically something that's now ingrained in pop culture. To the
right,
you don't really have to worry about RKO or Dino De Laurentiis coming after you.
Oh, they'd sue Quibi anyway, so don't worry about it. Speaking of Quibi, before we have to go, this has been so much fun. I got to ask you about Quibi, this experience of watching entertainment as you're walking down the street on your phone, and there's a unique way. Let me ask you this, Nick. Did you have a unique kind of filming style you had to do for that? Because I understand there's a thing called turnstile where you have to shoot it from certain directions and things.
Aspect ratio.
Yes. So let's say you're watching Quibi. You watch it on your phone or your mobile device. You can watch it this way or this way. Yeah. So that was something that Amy Heckerling thought about a lot, along with our DP, John Tanzer. They did a lot of work making sure that they were filming a show that could work vertically and horizontally. So that meant sometimes they had two cameras going at the same time, one flipped on its side and kind of with the shots composed to where they looked good vertically. So yes, it had a bit of a filming challenge, and that, I'm not sure if ever before there has been a service or shows that have had to film for vertically and horizontally at the same time. So yeah.
What's tough about it? Well, actually, I'm the kind of guy that relishes this opportunity, but it's the Wild West, So on one respect, you go, how do we do this? There's no precedent. But on the other hand, you go, there's no precedent. We can kind of do whatever we want and just shoot first and ask questions later, as far as just trying to get what we can. There's times where it worked. There's times where it didn't work. But, we just kind of did our best to service this thing. I mean, the thing that I keep reminding myself about the way that we have gotten used to experience, let's just use the half-hour comedy, for example. Let's use the sitcom, which has been sort of the precedent of how we absorb narrative comedy for the past, 60, large part of the past century, right? So these were things that were made specific for that time frame, because television networks were like, okay, here's how much time we have for your slot in our programming, and we need this amount of time for commercials. So all of your acts have to fit in these boxes. So you kind of give the creatives these parameters to fill in stuffs, to fill in jokes, to fill in narratives. So while we've gotten used to that, it is kind of no different than people saying, okay, here's the thing. We need this, and we need this, and we also need it in 7 to 10 minutes. And so hopefully if the comedy and the storytelling is good enough, you go, okay, you can, it's like water. You can hopefully make it malleable enough to where it can fit that place, and you can cut out the fat and triage things that don't need to be in there, both from a shot perspective and from a narrative perspective. It's a cool challenge. I think if you have a good enough idea, it can fit into anything if you have the sort of elbow grease and the sleeves to roll up to really kind of make it work. So, it was a challenge, but it's no different from the challenge of making anything work. How can I make this work the best with the space that I have? And so I enjoyed that. And plus we got Mark Hamill singing about King Kong's penis. So we couldn't really
One thing that's interesting is the timing of it all, because had we not had this pandemic, the idea behind Quibi is that you're at your desk, you're on the subway, you're taking these little bite-sized chunks of entertainment. Now everybody's at home. Everybody has access to all the entertainment venues that they ordinarily would have. I think it'll flourish much more when people get back to normal.
Yeah, well, so it's a great thing. And you, Darren, you had to do this while you were also shooting Hollywood, the series I mentioned, and doing a Vegas act as well. I mean, I don't know how you do it all. Nick obviously is a big help here.
Tell us about your Vegas act. I mean, look, this guy is astonishingly versatile, almost annoyingly so. I can't decide whether I love him or really hate him a lot. But
I grew up saying, how can I annoy Mark Hamill one day? So
well, you're doing a great job. No, but tell us, no, seriously, your
it
Vegas
wasn't
show.
like an act. It wasn't like a consistent act. That was just an example of one day. I had a song come out with Steve Aoki, who's a pretty popular DJ and does have a Vegas act that he does pretty regularly. And so we put out a song together. It was a cover of a Dave Matthews song. And so there was one day where I shot a scene on set for Hollywood in the 1940s with a very different kind of facial hair. I went to set for Royalties where I had to build that facial hair. Or maybe the days all blur together. The point was I had to go to two completely different worlds, one in the 1940s, one where I had to go watch and film this dance number, and then get on a plane to Vegas that night so I could play the iHeartRadio Music Festival and sing said song in a Vegas arena. And then I was back the next day, editing probably your song. It was great. I wouldn't have it any other way, but it was a wild,
exactly.
wild
Then you
time.
really feel like you're really in show business like you dreamed of as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's the dream. I truly, and here I am talking to you guys. This is all part of a fever dream.
I never get over how lucky we are. I'm telling you, and I'm always happy wherever I am. Well, like when I'm doing cartoons, that's where I want to be. I don't care if I'm not making big A-list movies. I'm doing cartoons, man, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
The voiceover community is one of the most welcoming everywhere I've gone.
Amen.
I mean, when you go to Broadway and you think they're kind of suspicious, or you're going to be pampered, or you're going to have handlers, or you're going to have a driver. Once they know you're on time and you're working like they are working and you know your lines, they just make you one of their own. And I found that in every industry, whether it's television, off-Broadway, Broadway, animation, it's all good. And like I say, I mean, we're just so lucky to be doing what we're doing, especially when the same things that you're doing used to get you thrown out of class when you were in high school, no Jerry Lewis impressions in biology in the principal's office.
Well, you guys are great. One last thing I got to ask before we go. Is there a CD? Is there an album coming out? Is there a place we can get all these songs together?
All the songs are currently wherever you get music. It's on Spotify, but we're releasing the album, I believe, very soon, if not this Friday. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to divulge that information. But yes, there will be a full album of all the songs from the show, including some other ones you may not have necessarily noticed on the show. But there'll be... there's a song per episode, so you'll be able to hear all of those, including Mark's performance as country rock legend Philip Combs singing Mighty as Kong. Those will all be out, and so hopefully people can listen to those. The videos are online. They're on my YouTube channel, and you can check out the whole series on Quibi right now, which has a 14-day free trial. So if you download it, you can watch our show.
Wow, you are a good salesman. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I put a lot of time in this, baby.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Mark Hamill. And
thank you guys.
This was lots of fun. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.